How do you assess the first 4 days of this impeachment trial versus the Vice President Sara Duterte?
Well, in the most recent video I released, sinabi ko nga dito that itong impeachment na ito, the proceedings, exposed some important facts for us. Number one, ang presiding officer natin sa Senado doesn't know how to preside. That's why they needed to elect somebody else na merong alam, may kakayanan para mag-preside. Number two, we have public prosecutors ng mga congressmen who doesn't know how to prosecute. That's why, as I predicted, pagdating na ng trial proper mismo, ang mga private prosecutors na ang magte-take over. Kasi yung mga congressman natin, ang mga abogado, mga pang-political speeches lang. They really have no skill insofar as trial is concerned. Number three, yung witness nila that they presented is practically, it's useless insofar as the proving of the threat itself is concerned. Kasi ang totoong gagawin lang naman nila doon is to prove that there was a video. And that's it. Pero pinahaba, pinadrama yung presentation. Actually, pag sa actual trial sa korte, verification na ang ginagawa ng mga officer na yan, nag-verify nung video. Pero they try to stretch it. Napasama pa kasi on cross-examination, nabuksan tuloy yung process of investigation na ginagawa nila. Pang-apat niyan is yung nangyaring pag-aresto kay Rodante Marcoleta, kay Mike Defensor before the start of the trial. So it seems as if the administration is going to do everything para lang mapigilan yung depensa from having an effective defense. But I think all of this so far has backfired against the prosecution, both on the legal and in the public perception. Kasi alam niyo po dito sa hearing na ito sa Senado, dalawa po ang korteng dumidinig nito, the impeachment court and the bar of public opinion. Tayo pong mga nagmamasid ang pinaka-importante po dito, and I really don't think that the prosecution has gained any ground insofar as public opinion is concerned, and also insofar as yung mga factual allegations in the impeachment court is concerned.
So this is a good point, Attorney, that you have pointed out that the two existing trial courts right now, one is the impeachment court, and the second is the court of the public opinion. To your views or to your opinion, none of these two has the prosecution gained advantage, maybe?
Wala talaga sila. They haven't gained any advantage at all. Here's the truth, real talk, ika nga. The truth of the matter is, yung mga senador na nakaupo dyan, yung mga desisyon na yan, like for example, yung mga Dilawan, yung mga Ping, na bumabatikos kay Senator, kay VP Sara Duterte, you think kahit anong klaseng ebidensya, eventually they will change their mind about their position against VP Sara? Of course not. Yung opposition, the 10 senators or 11 senators that they have, you think magbabago pa yung isip nila about dyan? So the real battleground here, sa totoo lang, is yung battleground pagdating sa publiko is concerned. Everything is all about 2028 sa tingin ko. So ito ay very similar to what was done to Jejo Marbinay leading towards the 2016 election. If you still recall, nung bago maghalala ng 2016, leading kasi si Jejo Marbinay noon sa survey, si Marrojas ang akala nila si Marrojas yung makakalaban. Because there was no pronouncement yet from Digong at that time. So, binanatan si Jejo Marbinay. So, pagdating ng 2016 election, medyo malambot na si Jejo Marbinay. He was prime for the picking, ika nga. And they're using the same strategy dito kay Sara Duterte. However, however, they have to put to step up, ano? Si Jejo Marbina hindi nakarating ng impeachment yan. Dito kay Sara Duterte, because ng mga Quadcom hearing, yung mga Tricom hearing, ano? Even word, hindi nagbago ang perception ng mga tao kay Sara Duterte. So they have to push it up to the impeachment. So this impeachment to me is a foregone conclusion. Hindi nila mai-impeach si Sara. They cannot remove Sara Duterte through the impeachment court unless something significant happens. Ano? Because kailangan nila 16 votes. They only have 13 as of the moment. Pero tingin ko nga, may hindi pa sila sigurado dyan kung makukuha nila yung 13 na yan. Ano? Baka bandang huli niya, may bumaliktad pa dyan sa pagboto against Sara Duterte.
Okay. So, what do you think will happen if this impeachment trial fails to impeach or to convict the vice president? And what do you think will be the effect or the role of this court of public opinion just in case this impeachment trial ay hindi po magiging successful?
Well, here's the thing, you know. If this administration and yung opponent si Sara Duterte wants him out of the election in 2028, there are only two things they can do. Impeach her or kill her. Dalawa lang yan eh. Yun lang ang paraan para hindi makasali si Sara Duterte o kaya mamatay si Sara Duterte of natural causes. So it's either impeachment or death. That's the only thing that can stop Sara Duterte now. So another thing, however, that can stop Sara Duterte from becoming president is the scenario of there being no election, walang election sa 2028. So in all of those scenarios, that will be very bad for the Republic pag nangyari po yun. Because taking a cue from history, in 1972, si Marcos noon is due for re-election, na siya, last term niya na noon, bababa na dapat siya sa pwesto noong 1973. So in order not to have an election, he declared martial law. And the rest is history. So we were under martial rule for about 8 years before to na-lift nung 1980. Doon wala nang halala noon ng mga panahon na yun. It's all Marcos. So if this administration is going to follow the same trajectory or the same pattern nung matandang Marcos, those are the only options available to them. Either mamatay si Sara Duterte or magkaroon tayo ng martial law. Martial law, however, makita niyan, there are certain requirements for that to be declared. Kailangan merong rebellion o merong gera. Kaya sabi ko, in both instances, medyo masama ito para sa mga Pilipino if this is the only option left.
And do you think is it going to be attainable still on the part of the administration to declare martial law?
Well, at the moment, actually dapat walang dahilan eh. Kaya ako kinakabahan ako dito sa posturing ng administration of riling up yung nangyayari dito sa BARM, sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Because ang haba ng I was with Malacanang in 1990 up to 1990, panahon ni Cory Aquino. I was there when the autonomous region, the first autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao was inaugurated by Cory Aquino. I was with Senator Rocco when the SPCPD was created, which eventually led to the reorganizing the autonomous region. And then sa panahon ni Digong, nabuo na yung Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. More than 20 years, almost 30 years ng negosasyon para sa kapayapaan sa Mindanao. And it is now being threatened by the actions of this administration in Muslim Mindanao. And you can feel that there is tension growing in Mindanao. Ang fear ko nga dyan, if this is being done deliberately, the trouble is being created deliberately so that the people will be agitated into resorting back to armed conflict. And then ito nga ang ating sitwasyon with China. Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit yung ating mga Philippine Coast Guard, sina Tariela, are doing the role of the DFA. Nagsasalita sila against mga diplomatic officials of the of China na hindi dumadaan sa proper diplomatic channel. Nakita nyo nga, nagkaroon na ng retaliation yung China, di ba? Binan sila Gibo Chodoro, at sina Tariela sa mga transactions in official government transactions or business transactions in China. So apparently parang mayroong parang escalation. I think what is happening here is not a de-escalation of possible threats against the government, but a deliberate escalation. They are egging trouble, inviting trouble talaga. And that is what I am afraid of. Na baka napupush tayo in a situation like this just to be able to justify a martial law in the future.
So parang sinasadya na yung parang ini-ignite yung yung taong bayan na to commit some acts that would be qualified as grounds for rebellion.
Exactly, that's my fear, na baka this is being done deliberately. Kasi for example, Mindanao, ang haba na ng panahon, sinabi ko nga sir, simula panahon ni Cory Aquino 1990 hanggang panahon ni Digong until the creation of the BARM, sometime in 2018-2019. Ang haba ng proseso ng negosasyon na yan, ang daming labanan, ang daming mga nag-effort to finally arrive at this setup ng Bangsamoro. And then BBM came in, and then just like that, protest erupted again in Bangsamoro. And ang nagpo-protesta dito are the MNLF group and the MILF group. Ito yung mga nakipag-negosasyon sa atin noon, in order to attain peace in Mindanao. Why are they rallying? Why are they protesting back in the street? Ang kasunod po niyan, remember, mga dating mga mga armadong mga rebelde. And it is not remote na kapag na-frustrate sila with this government, they're gonna go back to fighting again. And yun ang nakakabahala dito sa sitwasyon natin sa autonomous region. And I'm praying na sana hindi deliberate itong ginagawa nito, but the signs are there na in 4 years, nabuhay mo yung conflict doon sa Mindanao. So talagang mag-iisip ka talaga ng kakaiba after so many years of preparing peace in Mindanao and working for peace in Mindanao. I was in 3 years ginulo mo yung Mindanao ulit. Parang hindi maganda yung optics nito.
And this is quite parang unreasonable at parang illogical na if indeed they're the ones, if the administration is the one that is igniting the armed forces, or how do we call that, the groups in Mindanao. Do you think they are planning?
Well, ang pinag-uusapan po dyan, kaya nagwawala itong mga kapatid natin sa BARM is yung mga policy, yung mga polisiya na iniimplementa ng pamahalaan ng administrasyon na ito. At sila ang may control dyan. Kung ano man ang pinagpuprotesta ng ating mga kapatid, this administration could have done something about it. But they're not. Parang hinahayaan lang nila na hayaan mo lang yan, magreklamo yung mga yan. As if they're not afraid of any adverse effect o mag-ignite na muli ang usapin, ang digmaan dyan sa Mindanao. And that is bothersome. Nakakabahala yung ganitong klase ng posturing. And even the military should be worried about it. Hindi pa ba pagod yung ating mga militar ng bakbakan dyan sa Mindanao? Diba? Ilang taon na yan. Simula 1970s pa po yan. Yung labanan dyan sa Mindanao. Malapit na po tayo, umabot na tayo na 50 taon na digmaan. dyan sa Mindanao? Hindi pa ba tayo pagod dyan sa sitwasyon na yan? Hindi tayo uusad in a development ng ganyan ang sitwasyon ng Mindanao. And this administration should have known that.
And if that will escalate, Attorney Mike, how will it affect, or what will be the outcome, considering that there is an ongoing impeachment trial right now against the Vice President?
Well, this impeachment, kasi nasabi ko na nga ito, from the get-go, nung isinampa pa lang nila ito sa Senado, nung naging presidente si Alan Peter Cayetano, there is no way that the impeachment will prosper. Kasi nga, they needed 16 votes, and they don't have that. The administration knew that. The House Prosecution Panel, alam yan, na hindi sila mananalo dito sa impeachment na ito. Pero why are you still pushing it? Ang logical answer lang dyan is that it's because it's part of a propaganda. This is the only thing left for them to do na magagawa nila against VP Sara. Sabi ko kasi, parang pelikula to, napanood ko na to eh. We've seen this before. This is nothing new. Ito lang yung mga politiko going back to the same old tricks na dati na nilang ginawa. Binabalik-balikan nila simply because wala silang ibang alam na gawin. This is destructive politics. Instead na dapat ang high point, ang selling point ng administrasyon na to para sa kanilang susunod na kandidato kung sino man yun should be economic development, prosperity ng mga tao, di ba? Food security, national security, crime rate, yung maging masaya ang buhay nating lahat. But the people are not happy with our current situation right now. Pero sila, they're just busy about, yun lang, political lang. Ang kanilang strategy is just destroy the enemy. Not necessarily being better. Hindi sila hindi ibig sabihin, mas mainam sila. Ang gawin lang, gusto lang nilang gawin, mas demonyo yung kanilang katunggali. Ay, dapat akong piliin mo. I am the lesser evil. So, that's terrible politics for us Filipinos kung yan ang choices natin.
So parang lumalabas sa Attorney Mike na the prosecution is not really serious about convicting the Vice President. It's just a matter of as you have mentioned, propaganda, a way of destroying the character of Vice President Sara in connection to the 2028 election.
Correct. That's my honest assessment here because politically speaking, talagang there's no way that they can convict Sara Duterte dito sa Senado, especially with the pronouncement of Chis Escudero na ang boto required is 16. I think both pati mga kakampi ni Chis Escudero, supposed kakampi niya ay nasorpresa doon sa deklarasyon ni Chis Escudero. But that's how it stands now. They need 16 votes to convict Sara Duterte. And they only have 13. Sabi ko, baka malesen pa yung 13 nila na yan. I don't know, but I don't see it increasing at the moment. So, this is not looking good for the prosecution. At pagkatapos, itong ginawa nila of presenting yung Article 4 on grave threats as the first case is already indicative na wala talaga silang ebidensya. Kasi para sa akin, ang pinakamahinang kaso mo dyan would be Article 4. Kasi grave threats lang yan tapos may legal defense pa nga available dyan So, bakit yan ang inuna mo? Inuna nila yan because dyan lang sila may testigo. Pagkat ang ipipresenta mo lang dyan testigo, NBI, na nireview nila yung tape, i-authenticate nila yung video ni VP Sara, sasabihin lang na siya nga yung nagsalita. Wala namang question Hindi naman, I don't think the defense has even questioned the fact na sinabi nga yun ni VP Sara. So, there is no question even about the video. So, ang nangyari na yan, yung presentation ng witness na to, is just so much ado about nothing. Wala naman talaga pinagtatalungan dyan. So, ngayon, susunod daw nila, ipipresenta si Matibag, pati si Attorney Zulaika Lopez, ipipresenta na nila. Wala na naubusan na ng option. Dito na lang nila i-dribble yan, i-stretchin na lang nila ito habang naghahanap sila ng mga ebidensya laban kay Sara Duterte. And I don't think they're gonna be getting stronger as the days progress. This is going to look even more ridiculous. Nagiging katawa-tawa na nga lang itong impeachment, especially with Wing Gatchalian, na araw-araw tawa ako ng tawa doon sa mga memes na lumalabas kay Wing Gatchalian. So naging comedy itong ating impeachment, sa totoo lang.
Mhm. Yes, napansin din nga ng karamihan, especially yung parang sitwasyon ni Senate President Gatchalian sitting beside the presiding officer. On that point, attorney, you made mention on the 4 points that you have initially enumerated, when we started this interview. The first one is about the presiding officer. What is the supposed to be? What was really the correct process on this?
Well, the Constitution is very clear na pag ang presidente ang ini-impeach, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will preside over the proceedings. Tapos, in all other cases, ay dapat yung Senate President. So, even yung pinunto ni Senator Peter Cayetano is very telling. It's accurate. In the deliberation before the Constitutional Convention Constitutional Commission that drafted the 1987 Constitution, malinaw na ang intention ng framers of the Constitution is that pagdating sa other officers other than the President, dapat yung Senate President ang magpe-preside over the proceedings. Hindi yung mag-i-elect pa sila ng panibagong official or presiding officer. So that is not provided for in the Constitution, yung pag-i-elect nila. Kasi tingnan mo yung effect nito. If they can elect a presiding officer, a separate presiding officer, can they, while the proceedings are ongoing, can they elect another one? Can they replace Chis Escudero? Kasi ayaw na nila yung ginagawa ni Chis Escudero. So, pag ganun ang mangyayari, nagpapalit-palit ka pati ng presiding officer, the independence of the impeachment court will now be put to suspect. Kasi pwede ka palang magpalit-palit kung yan ang gusto mo. So what Wing Gatchalian and the majority has done by electing si Chis Escudero as the presiding officer, hindi ko dinidiskwento yung kakayanan ni Chis Escudero. Actually, sa mayorya, sa totoo lang, si Chis Escudero ang pinaka-experienced litigator dyan. Dalawa lang naman sila dyan si Kiko Pangilinan at saka si Chis Escudero. But I think Chis Escudero has more litigation experience than Kiko Pangilinan and more skilled. Mas mahusay talaga si Chis Escudero. We have to give that to him. However, yun yung pag-i-elect sa kanya is not provided for in the Constitution, and it is an admission on the part of Wing Gatchalian na wala siyang kakayanan. And that is embarrassing for the Senate President to admit na I know nothing about the impeachment proceedings. So, kailangan pa tayong kumuha ng import na sa tabi ko. And that's, kaya yun ang katawa-tawa para sa sambayan ng Pilipino. And hindi na nga, kaya nga sabi ko yung optics nito, when it looks bad for the people, makakalimutan ng tao even the presentation of evidence. Ang maaalala nila si Wing Gatchalian and how ridiculous it looks doon sa taas.
And one thing, attorney, na lalabas dito is probably itong si Chis Escudero bilang presiding officer. So, I think some of us would think na granting na hindi nagbago ng camp itong si Senator Chis and somebody else from the other camp na lumipat, and then Senator Chis granting na nag-remain sa grupo nila Senator Cayetano. So then maybe was it possible na he will still be imported from the other camp, from the other block, going to their block just so somebody can preside the hearing.
Kung hindi lumipat si Chis Escudero sa Mayorya, I don't think he will ever be elected as the presiding officer. They might opt for Kiko Pangilinan na lang instead. Pero at the end of the day, ako buo pa rin ang aking paniniwala. Senator Chis Escudero did not never wanted to join the majority. Talagang napuwersa lang siya yan. So his heart is not in this group. However, nung inelect siya as presiding officer, si Chis Escudero will always be a lawyer. Abogado siya si Chis Escudero. So yung pagiging abogado niya, lalabas at lalabas pa rin dyan. Yung kanyang respeto for due process at yung training niya as a lawyer will come out. No matter what the influence of the majority may be, he can always say na, well, I'm a lawyer, so I will decide on this. Inelect niyo ako as presiding officer. So this may be a blunder on the part of the majority dito sa Senate to assume na si Chis Escudero will just follow their lead kung anong gusto ng majority. So, I mean, hats off to Senator Chis at the moment. He's doing a wonderful job. However, meron ng petisyon, may motion sa Supreme Court na inalify itong proceedings na ito because of the illegal election of Senator Chis Escudero. So, yan, abangan pa rin natin yan kung ano magiging ruling ng Supreme Court dito.
And that is very much interesting, Attorney, how long do you think will it take for that petition to be decided by the Supreme Court?
Well, sa dami ng nakabinbin sa Supreme Court ngayon ng mga constitutional challenges, ngayon lang nangyari yan dito sa administrasyon na to, na kada issue nadadala natin sa Supreme Court. Even nga yung hearing on the 2025-2024 budget hanggang ngayon nakapending pa sa Supreme Court. We assume na matatagalan pa ito, at baka magtapos na yung deliberation doon sa Senado before makapag-rule ang Supreme Court. However, ang effect niyan is that if the Supreme Court will eventually rule na illegal yung proseso na ito sa Senado, the entire proceedings may be invalidated. So at the end of the day, baka lalabas ito, nagsayang lang tayo ng pera ng taong bayan dito sa impeachment na ito, which I think is really just a propaganda campaign against VP Sara, and we will be spending billions of pesos para lamang dito sa propaganda na ito.
Yun yung somewhat nakakalungkot, if that will happen, all of this na mga pagod pa-facilitate conduct nitong impeachment trial will all go to nothing. Pero going back to Senator Chis Escudero, because you mentioned you're quite confident on his ability, on his conviction being a lawyer, na gagawin talaga yung tama as far as the procedure is concerned on this impeachment trial. Granting that will result into yung sa part ng majority, if they will take it against Senator Chis Escudero, is it possible for them to do another action of changing the presiding officer?
Theoretically, they can. Kasi nga, nag-elect sila eh. So, ang theory dyan, if you have the power to elect, you have the power to remove. Pero I think this is where their legal and technical problem will become even worse. Because ngayon, talagang makikita mo that there will be a circumvention of the Constitution now. Dahil the Constitution specifically provides for who is the presiding officer. Precisely para nga hindi siya nagpapalit-palit. Para hindi siya subject to political influence. Kaya sa presidente, kailangan Chief Justice ang uupo. Sa Senate, pag Vice President and lower officials, it has to be the Senate President. Ang reason doon is that parang hindi siya subject to political influence. Ngayon, kung magpapalit-palit ka ng pinuno mo, dapat hindi ang Senate, hindi ang presiding officer ang papalitan mo. Ang palitan ninyo yung Senate President, hindi yung presiding officer. Because, for example, nung case ni Erap Estrada, if you still recall this, si Davidia noon was sitting as the presiding officer as Supreme Court Justice. Pagkatapos, si Nene Pimentel was sitting as the senator. However, nung nagbotohan sila sa Senado tungkol doon sa pagbubukas ng brown envelope which contains supposedly the details of the Jose Velarde account, 11 senators, kasama si Nene Pimentel, voted for the opening of the envelope. And 13 voted against. Kita niyo yung history natin. Parehong-pareho. Look at the numbers. This is not accident. You now have 13 ngayon dito sa kabila and you now have 11 dito sa kabila. In this particular case, sa case ni Erap Estrada, when the vote was casted, na 11 lang sila na bumoto to open the envelope, Nene Pimentel tendered his resignation as Senate President because alam na niya that he doesn't enjoy the confidence of the group, ng majority. So sabi niya, wala nang punto for me to sit as Senate President. So he resigned. Alam niya na ang kasunod nito. So, kung nagtuloy lang ang hearing noon kay Erap at hindi nagkaroon ng EDSA 3, ng EDSA 2, yung inelect nila na bagong Senate President will be the one to sit doon sa taas kasama ng Chief Justice. So, the same goes with the scenario natin ngayon dito sa sitwasyon ng VP Sara. If they really wanted a new presiding officer, what they needed to do was to replace the Senate President and not to elect a separate presiding officer. Pero hindi nila mai-elect si Chis Escudero as Senate President. Para sinasabi nila, you're only good for to be used by the majority as the presiding officer. Pero not for political intents and purposes na ikaw ang umupo as head of the Senate. Now that is that is painful for Senator Chis Escudero. Na alam mo, you're just a tool, na ginagamit ka lang ng mga kasamaan mo kasi matalino ka. Parang kung ikaw ay nung high school, di ba, pag may matalino tayong kaklase, siya ang tagagawa ng assignment natin, tapos taga-kopya lang tayo. Ganoon ang ginagawa nila kay Senator Chis. Kopyahan lang nila si Senator Chis kasi hindi sila nag-aaral kasi mas mahihina ang mga utak nila. And that's the picture na malinaw sa mga Pilipino. All the rest of the majority has no skill at all to preside. At ito, si Chis Escudero is just there kasi siya yung the smart one amongst the group.
Yeah, that is a very classic illustration, Attorney Mike, no? And itong sa part naman po ng prosecution, okay. But in a meanwhile, Attorney Mike, no? Is it still possible for us to reduce the audio feedback?
I don't know wala naman ako ibang device na naka-open. Baka may isa pang device na naka-open dyan. Somebody called me kasi kanina.
Okay.
Feedback lang supposedly itong...
Alright.
I'm gonna reduce my volume dito sa aking device. See if it works.
Okay, sige. On the part nitong prosecution, sa prosecution, this congressman, you mentioned they lack the trial skills to conduct this trial. Why do you think that's so?
Well, kasi nung umpisa pa lang sinabi ko na to sa Quadcom pa lang, kita mo na yung kalibre ng mga congressmen who are lawyers supposedly, na hindi naman talaga naging mga active na mga practitioners, na mga trial lawyers, no? Unlike before, nung panahon nila, nung impeachment ni Erap, ano, nila, ang mga prosecutor no, from the House, at tatanda ko nun, si Joker Arroyo, one of the best trial lawyers that we have. So we were very confident na maganda ang magiging presentation. But dito sa current roster ng House lawyers, wala naman sa kanila talagang experienced litigators eh. So even Senator Leila de Lima, si Senator de Lima is my professor, ano? Naging kasamahan ko pa siya nung kay Senator Rocco. But Senator de Lima is an election lawyer. She is not a criminal lawyer. So I don't know kung sino sa kanila doon ang ilalaban nila dito sa mga seasoned na mga lawyers. Kahit mga bata itong mga lawyers na pinipresenta ngayon ng depensa, that means hindi pa yan ang big guns nila, no? So mag-abang pa kayo pag nilabas na yung mga big guns of the defense. But they are doing pretty well, no? Even the young lawyers, Attorney Narvasa is, I think, did pretty well. Gave a good account of himself. So sa House kasi, sabi ko nga din sa isang post ko, na yung skill mo in mga flood control projects doesn't necessarily translate to skill in trial technique. Magkaiba yun, di ba? Itong mga abogado, trabaho nila to litigate, humarap sa korte, to argue. Anong totoong trabaho ng mga congressman natin? Kayo na ang sumagot nun. Ano ba talaga yung trabaho nila? To qualify them for trial. So I think the people can answer that for themselves.
Ay, sorry. Nakamute pala ako. In one of your previous interviews, somebody or the host answered that question, but I'm not sure if I will be allowed to answer that here. Baka mapugutan ako ng ulo ng boss ko dito.
Pag na natin sagutin yan, alam na ng taong bayan yan, di ba?
Okay. Pero on the part of the witness naman, attorney, what do you think? Kasi yung ano lang naman dito is for them to prove that the video exists. Pero I think some of us are asking right now, is this already all the what the prosecution got?
Exactly, di ba? After 3 days, that's all you've got. Yun lang ang naipresenta ninyo. Someone who will tell us that the video exists. Well, wala namang question on the part of the respondent ng kampo ni BP Sara that the video exists. It was never even the issue. So, ang tingin ko nga dito, presenta lang yan para, may dribble lang. May dribble lang na kunyari may pinipresenta sila. Pero in reality, it is useless. Walang silbi yung presentation of that particular witness because hindi naman niya na-establish pa yung fact na mayroong criminal act committed si BP Sara Duterte. Having the video is different from proving na may krimen na nagawa o may kamalian na nagawa si BP Sara by issuing those threats. Ang naging maganda nga yung ginawa ng depensa, inikutan nila yung issue na yun. They went straight to the process of the investigation to show, not to the senators, but to the public. Ang nakikinig dito, ang audience talagang pinipili nila dito is the public, not the senators. The senators have already made up their minds even before the start of this hearing. That's the truth. So ang pinaglalabanan talaga dito is the bar of public opinion. And I think the defense was able to introduce yung kanilang arguments properly para sa publiko na maintindihan na ang investigasyon na to from the very start was flawed. It was designed specifically to target Sara Duterte and not to arrive at the truth kung tunay na may pananagutan.
Now, touching on the video as the evidence, na yun nga, even the defense is not denying the very existence of this video. But one thing is being argued by the defense na to look at the entire context of the recorded virtual meeting. How important do you think it will be in identifying the intent of a grave threat on the part of the Vice President?
Well, it's very important kasi ang basihan nila dito of the grave threat is the video. So the video must be shown in its entire context. Hindi yung pinutol mo lang na statement from the video. Because the video will show na ang totoong pinagmulan ng threat na yan is the supposed information na mayroong papatay din kay BP Sara. Kaya ang reply niya doon, kung may kinausap na siya na kung papatayin siya, if somebody will kill her, patayin niyo rin itong mga tao nito. So that means yun ang debatable ngayon dito na issue. Will there be grave threats if ang threat is supposed to happen after the person making the threat is already dead? Patay na siya eh. So sabi, pag pinatay ako, patayin mo rin sila. So that is revenge from the grave. So who is liable for that? No? Kasi sa atin namang batas dito sa Pilipinas, wala naman pong conspiracy to commit murder. No? So meron conspiracy to commit treason, conspiracy to commit rebellion, or sedition, pero hindi po yung conspiracy to commit murder. Para magkaroon ng co-conspirator ng liability sa murder, dapat makommit yung murder. Dapat mangyari yun. That's why ang pinupush nila is grave threats lang. Kaya ang issue ngayon, meron bang grave threats kung ang threat mo is subject to a condition? At sabi nga ni Attorney Sal Panelo, that the threat is hypothetical and also conditional. I think tama naman si Attorney Sal, kasi hypothetical ito eh. It's hypothetical on the fact na meron niyang nag-utos na patayin si Sara Duterte. Kaya kung meron nga mag-utos na siya ipatayin, and it is now conditioned to the fact na siya nga ay pinatay, saka palang malalabas yung threat na sinabi. And I think yung kaibigan natin si Attorney Edward Chico, yung isang lawyer natin na comedian, na kaibigan, put it very clearly, sabi niya, ang sabi ni Sara, papapatay sila kung papatayin si Sara. So kung hindi mo naman pala ipapapatay si Sara, bakit ka natatakot kung wala ka naman palang planong ipapatay si Sara Duterte? See, this is how yung condition enters the fray of the discussion. Kung wala kang intensyon na papatay si Sara Duterte, then there's nothing to be afraid of. Then there's no threat at all. So,
yeah, well, yes, I think that's a good humor by Attorney Chico, no? Pero is it going to be qualified as an impossible crime if in case?
Not necessarily, not necessarily. Iba kasi yung may specific kasing crime sa revised penal code qualified as impossible crime. This one is not one of those na impossible crime. As a matter of fact, this crime, it doesn't even exist. Yung crime na ito, na grave threats with a condition. Wala po yan. Sa definition ng grave threats, dapat you should threaten someone with the commission of an offense against his person. But dapat yun, halimbawa tayong dalawa, nag-aaway tayo, diba? Sabihin ko, si Raul, papatayin kita. Ayan. So I'm threatening you already, right there and then. Pero pag sinabi ko sa'yo, sige, papatay mo ako. Pag pinapatay mo ako, ipapapatay kita. So yun, may condition na, ikaw mong mauuna, patay mo muna ako. Pagkatapos, ipapapatay kita. Pero paano mangyayari kung ipapapatay kita kung, di ba, patay na ako. So, assuming na mamatay ka nga, sino may didemanda, ipatay na ako. So wala na akong criminal and civil liability kung patay na ako. So
maybe on the person who will commit the killing, but that's another story.
Tama yun. Siyang liable. Pero ikaw, na nagutos, paano ka magiging liable? Ipatay ka na nga. Diba?
Okay. Ito nga sa one of the noticeable event as well, Attorney Mike, yung arrest ni Senator Marcoleta at saka ni former Congressman Mike Defensor. Yeah, do you think this is very well politically motivated in connection to this impeachment trial?
Definitely. Parang wala naman sigurong taong nasa tamang pag-iisip niya mag-iisip na totoo yung sinasabi ni Boying Rimulya na hiwalay na insidente ito. That's ridiculous. Every person in his right mind will know na yung pag-aresto kay Senator Marcoleta is politically motivated. This is part of yung harassment that is going on against the people who are resisting, yung mga nagsasalita laban sa administration and pushing for the investigation on flood control. I mean, look at the optics. Sa dami ng mga nakalista ng mga supposedly involved sa flood control. Sino-sino yung mga pinagkukulong nila, pinagkakasuhan at tinatakot ng kaso. Aside from Revilla, andyan na, sunod-sunod na. Si Jingo Estrada, si Nachis Escudero, na dating miyembro ng majority na nila Cayetano, si Joel Villanueva was threatened with the case, ngayon si Marcoleta, and then Mike Defensor. Saan sila nakabilang? Most of them ay nasa oposisyon. O sino yung nasampahan lang ng kaso na supposedly ay kasama ng majority? Well, parang ang kasama lang dyan would be si Revilla kasi tumakbo siya under sa administrasyon. Pero hindi siya nakaupo as a senator. So mas madali talaga siyang kasuhan. Kumbaga the usual suspect na lang. But look at the optics here. I mean, sabi ni Bongbong Marcos, there are 15 mga favored contractors na kumupong ng lahat ng mga kontrata. Nasaan sila? Bakit walang mga kaso laban sa kanila? Sabi ni Ping Lacson, there are 65 contractors, mga congressman na kontratista. At meron pa nga siyang ini-expose dito sa Bulacan, ganito ginawa. Nasaan sila? Nasaan yung kaso laban sa kanila? Now you have Martin Romualdez. Ilang buwan ang sinasabing sasampahan nila ng kaso. Nasaan yung kaso kay Romualdez? Why out of this number of billions of pesos at sa dami ng mga contractor, congressman na sinasabing kakasuhan, bakit walang kaso? Where is the case against Bersamin? Si Ping Lacson mismo, chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee mentioned na ang tumanggap daw ng pera sa Malacanang, yung 8 billion pesos, hindi si Bongbong Marcos, kundi si Adrian Bersamin. At alam daw ito ni Executive Secretary, former Chief Justice Bersamin. So nasaan yung kaso sa kanila? So dito makikita mo na the entire machinery ng gobyerno, sadly kasama pati yung Office of the Ombudsman, the DOJ, ay ginagamit to harass people who are opposing the administration. So all of these cases that are being filed is not about justice. I mean, tingnan mo naman itong nangyari dito sa flood control na ito. Mas marami pa yung state witness kaysa doon sa kinasuhan. Di ba? Si Bonoan, si Bernardo, si Alcantara, si Bryce Hernandez. Lahat sila na part of the big syndicate who made it possible na itong mga ghost projects na ito ay mag-exist. Sila yung mga naglo-launder ng pera sa mga casino para ma-legitimize yung pera. At ngayon lahat sila state witness. At ang kakasuhan lang nila, ayun, si Jinggoy, at pagkatapos si Senator Revilla. Dalawa yung may kaso ng mga senators. Wala pang ang congressman na nagkasama. So, paano nangyari yun? Diba? Usually yan, kukuha ka ng state witness, kahit isa lang, para maituro niya kung sino-sino yung involved. Ito baliktad, mas marami yung state witness kaysa doon sa kinasuhan. So para sa ating mga nanonood, sa mga Pilipino, nagmamasid, alam na natin yan, ay kalukuhan itong nangyayari nito. Tayo ay pinaglalaroan lamang ng gobyerno sa ganitong klase ng sitwasyon.
And hopefully on the ongoing o sa mga susunod na mga mangyayari dito po sa impeachment trial na ito, I hope this is going to be for the advantage of the Filipino people and hopefully magiging tama yung mga gagawin ng ating mga senator judges, and then as well as yung ating mga official on the part of the prosecution. Pero lastly po, Attorney Mike Operario, what would be your last message and to our fellow Filipinos on this ongoing chaos right now on our leadership in the government?
Well, ang pagmasdan po lamang natin dito is yung katotohanan. And the people has to be smart enough to identify kung paano tayo minamanipula ng pamahalaan patungkol dito sa mga impormasyon na inilalabas nila. That is why in this age of technology and information, wala na tayong excuse not to be properly informed because the information is available sa atin. It's right at your fingertips. Kailangan mo lang mag-search ka, mag-google ka sa telepono, and you will know exactly what is happening. We need to exercise restraint, because I think the government is also agitating the people na gumawa tayo ng mas radikal, mas violente ng mga pagkilos at para sila ay makakatugon dito. That's why I encourage everyone to be calm, be prayerful, magdasal po kayo. We're gonna get through this, yung mahirap na sitwasyon na ito ng ating bansa. Pero ang tanging magiging pananggalang lang po natin dito ay ang ating pananampalataya sa Diyos at ang katotohanan na meron po tayo at alam ninyo na kayo ay bahagi nito. Patuloy lamang po kayo magmasid, makilahok, mag-aral. Mahirap kasing makialam ang taong walang alam. God bless you po. God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Attorney Mike. God bless you as well. At maraming salamat once again sa pagpapaunlak ng aming invitation for this interview. And hopefully, we will have you again in the future for other analysis.
Opo. It will be my pleasure po na samahan uli kayo. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And God bless po sa lahat ng mga kaibigan natin dyan sa Iloilo at Kabisayaan.
Thank you so much.